Welcome to the Bayou Progressive. I'm Quentin Anthony Anderson, and today I'm joined by Democratic U.S. Senate candidate Gary Crockett as part of our ongoing coverage of the 2026 midterms here in Louisiana. We're going to talk about his background, why he's running, what kind of case he's making to the voters, and the nuts and bolts of his campaign, how he sees a path forward, and what is always a tough statewide race here for Democrats, but certainly during a wave election, what also should be seen as an opportunity. So, Gary Crockett, thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you very much, Quinn, for having me on. I take this as a great opportunity to speak to the people as well as speaking to you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So, Gary, for people who are just now getting familiar with you, and I'm among those people who's just now learning about you. Who are you? Where do you come from? And what in your life best explains why you should be Louisiana's next U.S. senator?
Okay, great question. So I'm Gary Crockett. I grew up in Tallulah, Louisiana. That is in Northeast Louisiana, and I currently reside in New Orleans, Louisiana. I spent 24 years in the military. I'm a retired Navy veteran. Uh, I went to Delgado College after high school, and from Delgado went to Stanford University uh, before going to the Navy. I'm also a business owner. I own three companies: a cybersecurity company, construction company, and an aerospace defense contracting company. So that business leadership is one of the reasons that I'm running. In addition to that, because I'm from North Louisiana and now live in South Louisiana, I have a great understanding of this state, what this state needs in each of its parishes. That leadership and creating jobs is what is needed right now. And that's the reason why I'm running.
Okay. So, looking at your website and some of your social media, you talk a lot about growing up in Tallulah, and you talk about kind of your sort of humble beginnings, if we will. A lot of people tell like a bootstrap story. What makes yours more than just kind of a political campaign biography? Why is your background important to your candidacy?
It's important because it's true. Tallulah is, for lack of another words, it's an impoverished community.
Mm.
It was impoverished when I grew up there. It was a little bit brighter during that time. And so I actually feel what people are going through. Because when I go back to Tallulah to visit my grandmother, who's 98 years old, she'll be 99 next month,
Whew.
and other family and friends, what I see is not what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I want change there. It's not enough for me to be at a certain level. Each and every citizen in this state needs to be there. So there are a lot of things that I've observed because of research and also statistics. And it's really a proven fact that wherever our senators have resided, those places have flourished. If we look at Lafayette, which was a kind of a sleepy college town at one time
Mm-hmm.
before John Brough.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at Madisonville with Mary Landrieu, when we look at Baton Rouge and those places for Kennedy and Cassidy
Mm-hmm.
and North Baton Rouge, we can see what happens when these people go to the Senate. They bring the dollars back to where they reside. And because we have no one in North Louisiana, we have no one in Tallulah, no one in Lake Providence, and those areas, Faraday, Vidalia, Waterproof, those towns continue to be impoverished. Those families continue to struggle. Hardworking families that, even though they're working full-time jobs,
Yep.
still can't always make ends meet. So for me, it's true. I was that kid who, when I went to cousins' homes on the weekend, and it was time to, take the shorts off to go to bed. There were times when I couldn't take my shorts off. And my cousins say, why? Because I don't have any drawers on.
Hmm.
Because we didn't have enough to make it all the way to the end of the week.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a hard luck story that is created. This is a story that I've lived. And because I've lived that story, it's the reason why I'm running. But also in my present life, I'm running to not leave Louisiana.
Mhm.
It's not enough that I have the means to leave, but when I look at the streets in my current city, after paying an astronomical amount of property tax, when I look at the services that we don't receive, paying an astronomical amount of sales tax,
Yeah.
I said either I'm going to leave or I'm going to make a difference. And because I have the tools and the skills to make a difference, I said I will make a difference, not just for me, but for the rest of my Louisiana community as well.
I think it's kind of saying something that the Speaker of the House is from North Louisiana, and North Louisiana looks the way that it does because I mean and I would say that back in the day, it was a lot more transactional in Congress, where you'd send a congressperson there, and regardless of the crazy stuff that they might say on the floor of the legislature, they always prioritize bringing home the bacon. Um,
That's right.
I've made this argument before, and some people disagree that Congress was a little bit less extreme when it was more transactional.
Right.
When and the example I used to use is Ron Paul, which might be dating myself now because most people probably know his son more than they know Ron Paul. But Ron Paul used to be this very very outspoken libertarian, and the Republican caucus used to hate him. He would vote against all of the bills that they needed him to vote against. But the one tool that even worked for Ron Paul was when they absolutely needed him, the speaker could go to his office and say, that research center that you need in Houston, all right, we're gonna put that line item in, and
Yep.
that could cajole people to getting some of the crazy out of the way when you needed people to vote for bills. And now that that doesn't happen nearly as often, a lot of people get sent to Washington really just to make a point. It's no longer transactional. They're kind of there to like fight these ideological battles that'll never get won, which is the reason why they never have to cross the aisle.
And that's also the reason why I'm running. I'm going there for three reasons. I'm going there to write legislation, to fight for my community, and to bring those dollars back home. That
Yeah.
is it. I will go there and I will write at least 64 pieces of legislation because those 64 pieces of legislation will go to our 64 parishes. I will absolutely fight. I will absolutely hold them hostage because for me, in order to get my vote, there has to be something in it for the people of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Not for me, but for those 64 parishes, those parishes that I go through, which are the majority of our state, where people are struggling to make it has to be something in it for them.
I like it. I like it. Um, you mentioned a lot about your business background, that it sort of complements your personal background. What kind of business leadership do you think that voters need to understand most about your background, and why it prepares you for the U.S. Senate? Why do you think a business background uniquely prepares you for the Senate?
Well, my business background prepares me uniquely because of the leadership that's involved in it. So I've worked as both an executive for other companies as well as for my own companies.
Mhm.
Also, because of my military background, which has
Yeah.
been the majority, uh, leading other people, getting the job done. It's all about being mission driven and completing a mission. One of the issues that we have in Congress is that we have people that we send there that forget about us once they get there. If you sit in office for 12 years and you sit at any job for 12 years and you don't get it done, first of all, you wouldn't get 12 years in order
Yeah.
for that to happen.
Yeah.
It's the same way with those that have had 18 years. When I speak of Mary Landrieu, if you don't bring it home during that time, there's a problem. But one of the issues with that is because they've never had a true leadership position before this.
Hmm.
If you've never been in the military where you've actually led people where you had to get the job done. So I was enlisted in the military for that time period,
Mhm.
despite the fact of the degrees that I have, because I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm not afraid of working next to my fellow soldier and
Yeah.
my fellow neighbor. Being practical is important in business. It's not enough to throw up cliches and slogans and bright ideas without actually being able to put that in motion and implement it. So those are the skills that I bring to the table that all of our citizens will be able to take advantage of.
Okay, so let's talk about your Navy background. How does that prepare you, not just for the Senate, but how has that kind of shaped your life ever since? I know I'm a brat. My dad is a Marine. My mom was in Air Force. She was a reporter in the Air Force, and so for me, it's I know that there's sort of pre-military for them, and then there's everything else in their life, post-military.
And that is very true. So in the Navy, I was a hospital corpsman. And as a hospital corpsman, part of my time was spent with the Marines because we're the medics for the Marines. But in addition to that, I served some of my time with SEAL Team 4 as well. So we're talking about someone who is getting it done in the harshest of situations.
Yeah.
We're talking about every morning that we're getting up, we're doing a 6 mile run. So that is about preparation. Even being part of the teams is about being prep. It's about preparation. Even serving when I was assigned to some of the naval hospitals, it was still about preparation and caring for people
Mhm.
on a regular basis. So that is and which is part of being, in community. And because of that, that is important. That sense of service on a regular basis. Even though you're part of the military, it's about serving your fellow soldier, your fellow Marine at all times, under any condition.
Did you enlist or were you commissioned?
I enlisted.
Okay.
Even with degrees, I enlisted.
Okay, that is real commitment. So kind of segueing from that, and we're bouncing around a little bit, but this was a good transition. Uh, as a veteran, and as somebody who is running to be part of a chamber that should be voting on war resolutions, if we were doing this, by the book, but certainly as somebody that would be joining a body that would be very much a part of the decisions that are being made right now relative to our military deployments. What is your assessment right now of the way that our military is being deployed, whether or not there's clarity of mission, and then obviously an extension of that, whether or not you support the mission, whether it's clear or not?
Right. So, two things. I support the mission, whether it's clear or not, as long as it is legal and constitutional. I don't have to agree with the orders that are given, but as long as they're legal
Mhm.
and as long as they're constitutional, those orders will be followed. Now, the issue with the present war is faulty logic.
Mhm.
Everything that we hear, there's more contraction and backtracking concerning the status of the war, why we went to war, even with Joe Kent today resigning. And we're
Mhm.
talking about intelligence resigning. We're talking about those that have intimate knowledge of why and what we're doing. That says, you know what, I'm out of here because this isn't right. So I support each and every one of our soldiers. I want them to come home safe, but I have a problem with what we currently have and call leadership.
So if you were in the Senate today and a war resolution was presented to you based on the information that's been made public so far, a war resolution relative to Iran, would you vote to approve further military action in Iran or no?
Right. So without the clarification that we absolutely need, I would
Mhm.
have to vote no.
Okay.
Because the first thing is we had a president who said America first, America first.
Yeah.
What we're doing over there has nothing to do with America.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I've already done the numbers. With what we have already spent in these 20 days of this war, which is now $2 billion a day,
Yeah.
that is $800 million for each of our 50 states. That is at least $12 million for each of our 64 parishes.
Yeah.
There's a lot that could be done in Madison Parish, in Tensall Parish, in East Carroll Parish with $12 million. There's some priorities right now in each of those parishes that could be resolved with just their portion of what is being spent in this war.
No.
It's
Uh,
very interesting that when it comes to doing what is right for our citizens, there's a budget issue.
mm-hmm.
But when it comes to this war and other things, it's no problem. And I think what we have is a value issue within the current leadership.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is just a year ago, maybe even less than that, we were fighting over the administration's lack of willingness to extend healthcare subsidies. And part of their argument was that it was too expensive. And yet we are more than willing to find the money for a war of choice at $2 billion a day. So I think that you make a very good point there. Um, let's let me get us a little bit back on track. Why are you running for the U.S. Senate specifically? Why not some other lower office? Why not some other form of public service? I mean, you've already served in the military. Why run for the U.S. Senate and why now?
Because I had never planned a day in my life to ever run for any office at all.
Okay.
So I looked at Louisiana. I came back here in 2019. And in going back and forth to see my grandmother and see other family members, I didn't like I didn't like the things that I saw. And currently, I don't like the things that I see. Um, when I look at the leadership throughout this state, there are things that should be changed. When I look at even now, we have Democrats that are more concerned about naming a bridge and voting for changing the name of a bridge
Yeah.
than they are about legislation that would really help the least of these. And I know that when we help the least of these, that lowest common denominator, when you take care of that, everyone, everyone is stronger as a result. And because the leaders that were put before us, none of them were really leaders before going into political office, which also means that they're not leaders. A person cannot be a leader that has not led. Pontificating at Congress and pontificating uh, at a mantle does not make you a leader.
No.
Leaders lead by having done something. And in most of these cases, that isn't the case. And because of that, we don't find people that are going up to write legislation that really matters. It's one thing to get a portion of something that is going to come, is another thing to write some groundbreaking legislation that's going to be good for everyone in America. When I look at the fact that Louisiana is 50th of all states, that's a problem. 40 in every category except education, where we're 47, that's still at the bottom.
Yeah.
That can't continue. So
There's
that's
some
the
things
reason
where we're
why
51st. There's some things where we're 51st if you count DC.
that is true. And that can't continue. So I joined this race because I don't want it to continue and because I have the practical knowledge and skills to turn it around. I can't do it by myself because one of the things that I say continuously is that let's build a better Louisiana together. That is what we can do because it takes the votes of the people, but it also takes the voice of the people. I'm going to Congress to speak to the people in Congress and to speak for the people of Louisiana. So even though it would be my lips, it will be their voice. And unfortunately, the people that we have there now, they're busy advocating for the current president instead of advocating for the people.
Yeah. Okay, then let's talk about what a better Louisiana looks like from a policy perspective. You list a lot of stuff on your website: jobs, energy, healthcare, education, affordability, disaster recovery, veterans and military issues, constitutional rights, and taxes. And I'm sure I missed probably a half dozen other things. You're
Youth
pretty
and
thorough.
housing, youth
Youth
and
and
housing.
housing. Okay, so you are very comprehensive in your policy portfolio. But if you had to pick three, and you know how voters are, you know that you can sit there and say a million things, but they'll walk away with just a handful of things. So if you had to prioritize what your top three sort of policy issues, if you had to be characterized in this campaign by your top three issues, what would they be?
The top three, if I had to take my 12 to make it three, the first one would be jobs.
Okay.
The second one would be healthcare. And it's hard for a third one because there's so much that's left out. Um, I would have to go with education, thinking about the youth.
Okay. So when you say jobs, what do you what is the priority there? Is it to
The priority
cre-
there is creating jobs.
okay.
Louisiana has missed many opportunities for bringing in manufacturing jobs that would benefit everyone.
Hmm.
And in order to get those manufacturing jobs, there has to be training.
Yeah.
Give you some examples. Alabama currently has 5 car manufacturers in that state. The first manufacturer that came to Alabama was Mercedes. And of course, there was no one trained in creating Mercedes automobiles or anything like that. But what the state did is they gave paid training to woo Mercedes to come in.
Hmm.
And Mercedes is the one who made sure that that training was what it was supposed to be. They didn't just, it wasn't just, some ad hoc training. They did
Hmm.
it in conjunction with them.
Yeah.
And after Mercedes, then you had Toyota, Kia, Hyundai. You have all of those places there now as a result. And those are jobs that you don't have to go and get a college degree for. You just have to have the willingness and a work ethic in order to get it done and be trainable. And that we can do here in Louisiana. And that's just one example. The same with cybersecurity. We're short of people in cybersecurity all across this nation.
Yeah.
Again, instituting training. The current cyber command is in Augusta, Georgia, a place smaller than New Orleans.
Yeah.
But finding a job there is no problem at all. Kids that are graduating from high school in Augusta, Georgia,
Hmm.
if they're interested in cybersecurity and they get that training, which they can get some of it in high school, they're leaving high school making almost 80,000 a year.
Jeez. That's double what
So
I was
what I'm
making coming
doing,
up.
right, and what you're saying, what you're getting here is someone with a college degree saying, you don't need a college degree.
Yeah.
I'm showing you opportunities where there's no degree, just
Hmm.
training. And we have to be very intentional about it. It can't be generalities.
Yeah. So I'm curious when it comes to and this is still staying on jobs. Do you feel like AI has sort of changed what jobs government can incentivize, what jobs policy can sort of create, or what jobs policy needs to be trying to create? Because a lot of the jobs that you just listed are kind of right there on the chopping block for a lot of these AI companies. They can already see AI being able to take on a lot of manufacturing. They can see AI in the cybersecurity space. It's already there. You have people that went and got coding degrees and degrees in computer science that are seeing AI do what you would expect, first, second, third year graduates at a school doing. What jobs should we be trying to create right now that can kind
Okay.
of be future proof?
That is a wonderful question. So here's the thing about AI and robotics. Someone has to program each and every one of those.
Hmm.
So it's not a matter of what they go to get training for. Even in your training, you have to be looking forward to what is next, not what is now.
Hmm.
There's AI governance as well. So it's one thing to code it. The other one is make sure that it's ethical,
Hmm.
to make sure that it's safe. All those opportunities are there because the same person had to program for anything else, they're going to have to program for AI. And AI isn't just one way where you go in and you get some answers. It's actually sometimes it's like with networks and switches. So in other
Hmm.
words, when there's a fault, it's programmed to say, to call this person or something like that, which is the same thing that if I was sitting there and the alarm started to go off on this machine, I would hit a button, stop it, and then call someone.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take away as much as people think it will take away. But in addition to that, when we're talking about making quality products, no AI is ever going to replace what Rolls-Royce and other manufacturers do.
Hmm.
Because in order to make the best, it will always come from a human. Even AI and all of its programming is still coming from the human mind. So as much as some people think that it can be replaced, there are things that can't be replaced. You would never have a robot who's going to come and install an HVAC unit. You're never going to have an AI who's going to come and screw in a light bulb, or it's going to come and do carpentry work on site or welding. Those blue collar jobs that a lot of college educated may have frowned against, those are the recession proof jobs. So however it goes, when you need that air conditioning, you need the air conditioning. It doesn't matter about a degree or anything else. So when we think about what is actually needed in society, there are some things that AI can never replace. What we have to do is be willing to direct our youth into these paths and that path is into the real world. We have to be able to assess and see who can actually make it in college, but not just making it in college, because that's not the problem. Making it in college to go to what job? It's the same with the training that I spoke about with Mercedes Benz. It was training to a particular position. And that's where our sights has to be. We're sending a lot of our youth to college with nothing to look forward to afterwards. And that has to change. It has to be practical education, not just education for the sake of education. And we're failing a lot of our young men, 16 to 25, for that same reason. And
Hmm.
I'm talking about, when I say young men, I'm talking about both black and white.
Yeah.
They're being they're on the short end of the stick for that same reason because they have nowhere to go. I can bring practical solutions to make sure that they are employed and not underemployed, looking at what is the future, looking at what their dreams and desires are to make sure that they have a job where they can work full time, but also able to take care of their family working full time.
So I want to get to healthcare and education, your other two. But I'm curious, how would you describe your politics? Would you, on a spectrum of whatever the buzzword is, liberal, progressive to conservative, how would you describe your politics?
Hmm. Because I haven't been in politics, I would describe it as conservatively progressive.
Okay,
And
you
so,
got to expand on that one.
right. Okay. So here's the thing. Uh, Even being progressive, I think it's important to be practical.
Okay.
Is not enough to just jump out there and say that you want change. You need change that people can believe in, change that people can hope for later on, but also change that people can put their hands on and experience.
Hmm.
So, and I say conservative because this also has to be wrapped up in our values as well.
Okay.
So, when things happen in our state, as far as calamity is concerned, we're not concerned about whether you're red or blue or who you voted for.
Hmm.
All you want the neighbor to do is to jump in and help out. And I say conservative because if values come first, a lot of other things can really be worked out. And I think that when we take our values out of everything else that we do, we end up on the short end of the stick. I want all of us to move forward. I don't want us to stay stuck in ideas, mindsets, or anything,
Hmm.
but I want it to happen in a practical way. And when I say practical, don't be something just to say that you're that and it yields nothing at the end of the day. I think every way in which we push forward, it should be practical enough where there's a reward. If it's not a reward, we're just being egotistical or we're saying, I'm vegan just to be vegan. What is the benefit of
Yeah.
it?
Okay. I guess some some easy ways that people kind of categorize people on abortion. What's your position on abortion?
That's a very good one. And that probably describes exactly what I just said.
Okay.
So, where I may feel personally that I wouldn't want to be involved in a situation of abortion, I think abortion is absolutely needed and absolutely should be available.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be used for straight up contraceptive purposes.
Hmm.
But even if it is used for that, I think it should be, again, because I just said conservatively progressive,
Yeah.
I think there should be a cutoff. So if it's not because of rape, incest, or some other reason, when it comes to it being just for contraceptive, you don't get to the seventh, eighth, and ninth month for that if that's not an issue.
Mm.
That I would have a problem with. If it's one of those trimesters that we have decided, then absolutely yes. But is it important? It is. Should it happen and be available? Yes.
Would you because we're in a post Roe v. Wade world now, would you support a constitutional amendment that protects the right to choose?
I absolutely would.
Okay.
And the reason why is if we're protecting um, our citizens and all of us are created equal, we should have the right to make a choice concerning that. And those choices aren't easy, they're not esoteric, they're not laid out. Circumstance and life happens,
Yeah.
and those options should be there.
Okay. So let's talk about your the second pillar. I made you make three pillars. Let's talk about healthcare. Um, what would you say is would be your top priority, your most urgent healthcare related priority if you got elected to the Senate right now?
Straighten out this debacle with Medicaid,
Okay.
because we're talking about the least of these. We're talking about people that actually need healthcare help that we're cutting off. And that needs to be addressed immediate. And we're talking about turning down federal dollars for basically we are having people that we have put in leadership positions that says, I want to punish this group of people just because I want to punish them.
Mhm.
I want them to have less, even though I'm having more. So this is what I feel. I feel that every American should have the same health care that our leaders have.
Hmm. Would you support
There's no way that I should be representing someone, and if I'm representing you, I come with what you give me. And there's no way that I'm going to give you this great health care and I have none or have less.
do you feel that the Affordable Care Act, where on the sort of spectrum of went far enough, didn't go far enough, went too far? Where do you feel in terms of now that we're you know whew, coming up what 15 years now since it passed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
where do you fall on the assessment of the Affordable Care Act?
Well, first of all, uh, Obama and we have we're not strangers,
Okay.
but he should have done what he should have done. You know how you say, what I should have done was this?
Hmm.
Instead of worrying about whether or not he was going to be elected for the next 4 years,
Hmm.
when he had the majority of the House and the majority of the Senate, he should have put in place what would have worked for everyone. It should have been what it could be. And what that is a healthcare system that is competitive,
You're talking about the
not
public health.
one, right, not one that is rewarding the insurance companies, but what America should have done was created their own insurance company.
Hmm. Yep.
Because what it would have done, with competition, it makes you give more benefits so that people can come over to you. So
Yep.
they could choose what the senators and representatives have, or they could choose something else.
Yeah.
Because you already have something set up for them. Just make sure every American can get the same thing.
And for clarity, for folks who may not know what we're talking about, during the debate around the ACA, when Democrats had a majority in the House and we had 60 Democratic senators, one of the most important components of the Affordable Care Act at the time was something called a public option, which would have been, in a sense, a national Medicaid. That everyone, it always would have been an option when you went on the marketplace. But the key
Right.
thing about the public option was that because it's a government provided option, it's sort of at the lowest level in terms of what it costs. And it would always keep everybody else as close to honest as possible. So, you might be paying 30% profit margins and not know it until the public option comes and it's right above the costs of operating, and you realize the difference between the things that you need versus what some of these plans might be offering you at a 30% premium. And so the point of the public option was that it would keep everybody else honest. The point wasn't that everybody would hop on the public option. It was that the public option, just by being cheaper, would force everybody else to be more affordable. And so that's what you're referring to. And we didn't do it because one senator died, and we had 59. And I was talking to somebody about this earlier. If Republicans just had 50 senators, they would change the world. But Democrats with 59, that was the difference between a public option and not having a public option, was that Ted Kennedy passed away in the middle of it, and we weren't able to win his seat back in Massachusetts, and so we had to drop the public option.
Well, not only that, we could have moved faster than we moved.
That's exactly right.
In addition to that, we could have had these options laid out. The benefits should have been laid out as such. You look at the top tier plans, and you make sure that that is what you're given, but you're also give incentives for Americans to be healthier at the same time. So if Blue Cross Platinum is given certain benefits, our public option should have that at a minimum. Therefore, all the other insurance companies would have to raise their benefits to even compete,
Yeah.
because the only way that they make dollars is that people choose their plan. And people aren't going to choose their plans getting less,
Mm-hmm.
because there should be incentives where people go, they get dollars where they join a gym. Those are the type of things to help make us healthy, but it also gives us an incentive to do better and receive the type of health care that we need. So it wasn't just a matter of the cost, but also the benefit analysis should have been a lot better. And number three, stop listening to lobbyists. Lobby companies don't vote, only people vote. So forget about all of those dollars and do what is right for your people. So with that in mind, I'm not concerned about the next six. Number one, if the people of Louisiana aren't benefiting from my first two,
Mm-hmm.
why am I there?
Hmm.
I'm not going to sit up and take money just to remain there. That makes no sense, and it's quite disingenuous. That is what we have right now from Kennedy. All you hear is Washington rhetoric. That is what we hear from Cassidy, who floats and flies around like the wind. They're not concerned about the people, and they're not bringing it home.
Yeah. Well, be careful, because if you win, people who watch my stuff, they're gonna clip this and they're gonna hold it to you in year three and year four.
Uh, and you know what? And that's one thing I would do. I'm willing to make a contract with the citizens of Louisiana
Yeah.
that if I'm not doing my job, then I will resign. If I'm not bringing it home for them, I will resign. If I get caught up in Washington rhetoric or lobbyists, then I will resign. I think that is first of all, that is what we should be committing to when we run. That if I'm not doing what's in the best interest of the people in Louisiana, and what I mean by that, I'm talking about the people in the little small towns. I'm talking about the people that are in Meat, the people that are in Tickfall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about those small communities. Because when you look at, again, like I said before, Madisonville, Lafayette, North Baton Rouge, they're doing well because of who they've had there.
Yeah.
When I look at New Orleans, and New Orleans has thrived for decades on its tourism and being this unique place in Louisiana. But now it has fallen into disrepair. One of the reasons that it's fallen into disrepair, New Orleans has survived pretty much on its own. Yes, some dollars came in after COVID and Katrina. But other than that, New Orleans survived on its own. Do you realize that New Orleans has not had a senator that resided in New Orleans since 1800s, like 1817?
Oh, well.
And when you look at the condition and the growth or lack thereof of New Orleans, compared to Madisonville and the North Shore, compared to Lafayette,
Mm-hmm.
compared to North Baton Rouge, it attests to that. So the next senator from Louisiana will make history being from New Orleans in this case. And I'm saying that because I am that person.
Well, two out of three of y'all are representing New Orleans, so it's not it's not it's not unlikely. It's not unlikely.
That is true, but I'm speaking specifically of me. I'm not
I
running
know.
for second place.
I know.
Um, I'm running for first because I have a path to victory.
And in fact, let's go to that, and then we'll get to education after that. So what? Yeah. So realistically, this is a statewide race, and this is your first time running
That is
for
correct.
what was your calculus for what the path from here to the nomination to the U.S. Senate was when you sort of thought about throwing my hat into this? What is your path to winning, practically speaking?
Okay, practically, my relationship with North Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
being familiar with the people and the people knowing me in North Louisiana and knowing me here in South Louisiana. I'm running a 64 parish race. I'm getting to know the people. As I've told many, I'm only one vote from winning this election. Then that's both the primary and the general election.
Mm-hmm.
And that one vote is your vote.
Yeah.
If the people want change, if they want something different, if they want a proven leader, if they want a practical business person, they will choose me. If they want more of the same, they would choose Cassidy all over again, or they would choose Letlow, or they would choose Fleming. We're talking about three people who've already been in office.
Mm-hmm.
Fleming has done nothing for the common man, being treasurer. You know, they can talk about lowering taxes, things. You've had the opportunity. Letlow in her short term, same way. Cassidy in his 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
the same way. So the working people are my path to victory. Getting into each one of those 64 parishes, listening to what is on the hearts of those people, looking at what the priorities are in each one of those towns is my path to victory. Not only that, my campaign is self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
We loaned my campaign personally $350,000
Mm-hmm.
for this primary period. So the reason why we're not out fundraising and things of that sort is because we're focusing on execution.
Now, do you plan to stay self-funded even if you made your way into the general?
Absolutely not.
I,
That would not be possible. So,
I was a little bit
you know,
I was a little bit worried that you were going to say absolutely.
no, I'm a numbers guy. Cassidy currently has 14 million in his war chest right now, and access to an additional 12.
Hmm.
It's going to take less for me to win, a
Hmm.
lot less, but it is going to take at least 4 million in order to win.
Why do you think it'll take less?
It will take less because I'm going to the people. Mine is not based upon rhetoric. Mine isn't based upon spending all the money on TV and things that really don't matter.
But you're also
The vote,
introducing yourself to the people, which he doesn't have to do.
that is correct. And his introduction is pretty bad right now.
Hmm.
So he has a couple of things against him. The MAGA folk don't want him because of him voting to impeach Trump.
Hmm.
And the same way with Letlow, the MAGA people are with her only because of Trump. And then
That,
Fleming, who would be my toughest opponent because he doesn't have either of them against him. He is the straight middle of the road Republican. I actually told,
have you not seen the Fleming signs with him and Donald Trump giving the thumbs up?
yes, but at the end of the day, is that going to help or hurt him?
Hmm.
But as far as the numbers are concerned, he would still be my toughest opponent.
Hmm.
The New York Times, I spoke to the Democratic leadership about this weeks ago.
Hmm.
And just this past week, the New York Times polls came out showing the same thing. So the first thing that we did was research. We made sure that we did our own polling
Yeah.
to see exactly who the viable candidate would be on the other side. Because the path to victory isn't just jumping in and running and say, hey, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to win. The path to victory is making an assessment, me against Cassidy, which would be my easiest win,
Hmm.
me against Letlow, and then me against Fleming.
So
And it
when you
gets
say Cassidy's your easiest, is it because you're banking that a lot of Republicans would stay home?
that, and because of his record in the small communities.
Hmm.
Cassidy has offered to small communities nothing at all.
Hmm.
Letlow has offered to small communities nothing at all, and Fleming hasn't either. There's no possible way to explain 12 years of bringing nothing to these small places.
Yeah.
You can't get past that, especially while people are hurting right now. And they're hurting even more so because of this war. So things are super tight. You know, when you're paying an extra dollar more a gallon, and in
Hmm.
some of the small communities, it's even more than that
Yeah.
because, you know, it's small gas stations. You can't explain that away. Letlow has even less name recognition because she just got in as well.
Yeah.
And along with that, she carries the Trump baggage.
Hmm.
And Fleming is carrying the Trump baggage right now. And so even though the diehard MAGA, they are happy with this war and everything that is going on, the person in the little small town,
Hmm.
even in Tallulah and other places, they're not feeling that because you know what? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what happens in Washington. It matters what happens on that table at dinner time.
That's yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. You actually just made me. Yeah. Luckily, I'm not running for the Senate, but you just made me think of a good line. It doesn't matter what's happening in Washington. What matters is what's happening in Washington Parish. I like
That's
that.
true.
I like that. I like that. You know what? If y'all don't make this work, I'm I'm gonna jump in and I'm a sword of the nomination with that line. Uh, okay, so because I do a lot of folks are particularly with newer candidates, what they're most curious about is some of the nuts and bolts of the campaign. So you said that you're self-financed. Um, what is kind of the voter coalition that you're thinking about as you think about uh winning the primary? Because a lot of these it's very tough to just sort of say that I'm the candidate that can win everybody's vote because just resources are limited, time is limited. This is we have 2 months, right? We have two
Yep.
months between now and election day. uh when you're thinking about what a Gary Crockett voter looks like, what is that coalition sort of made up of? Is it black folks? Is it unions? Is it conservative Dems? Is it college, young people? What is the sort of core? And I know that your coalition is bits and pieces of all of that, but like when you're
Right.
thinking about, this is a good parish for me, this is a good precinct for me, this might be something different. What does that look like for you?
For me, it crosses all of those demographics because at the end of the day, it's the working man.
You know,
It's those that are out there working, struggling hard in order to make it. And there are a lot more of them than any of those that have jobs right now and thinking they're doing well. They talk about the employment rate only being, in single digits. But when it comes to these small towns, it isn't that way. And
yeah,
those people want different. And in order to get different, you have to vote different. So for me, I can't say it's going to be a particular demographic because there are white people that are struggling, just as there are black people that are struggling. There are Hispanics that are struggling as well. And outside of those struggles for a job, there are struggles concerning education. They have grandparents that are elderly and they're struggling for services that they should have.
yeah,
There are veterans that are struggling right now. We have a governor right now who wants to spend more money on private uh, school vouchers.
mm-hmm,
In those little towns, there aren't private schools.
mm-hmm,
So where you want to take that money and spend it there? So, my message to them is going to be clear and it resonates with them because until they don't know anything about a private school. And if that's where your priorities are with the rich again. And that's why I say with the working person. And I can show their records that that was the only thing that they were concerned about. When you're sitting back and you're concerned about name and bridges, but not making sure that these people have jobs and opportunities, that is a problem. When you're giving these big fat tax breaks to data centers and not holding them accountable for creating new jobs, not the possibility of jobs. And that's the problem with the language and a lot of these contracts. A possibility of 2,000 jobs. No, give them that break based upon actual jobs that they create. Because now you've incentivized this. So now they have an incentive to, create some jobs. Otherwise, they're going to have to pay their fair share of taxes. Those are the practical leadership implementations that has to happen for whoever the next candidate is.
well, that is, that is the same sweetheart deal we have with the petro industry as well. So,
That is correct. And and
uh,
and and they're making record profit. And the thing of it is, they can't go anywhere because the oil is
that's
right
always
here
been
in
that's
our Gulf.
always I've made that argument a million times because every time they're like, we could take it away. You're like, do you know how it would cost you so much? It would be an existential crisis for you to leave. Like
It
you are
would.
built here,
They, they
and
they can't afford to leave. They can't afford to leave those wells because if they leave those wells, uh, we can give those leases to another
yeah,
company.
they know
And
this.
and
But they also know that they have us by the proverbial testicles, and for
well, they
whatever
have those
reason,
that don't have a backbone.
that's true. That's
And
true.
and that, and that is the problem because they're so wrapped up in taking money from lobbyists that they really don't care about the people.
And you saw that because when Governor Edwards signed the executive order that made a lot of the ITEP applications go to the people, you saw in even conservative areas where they were rejecting some of those applications, and it wasn't ideological, it wasn't Democrat versus Republican, it was based on what they're applying for and what they're producing. It does not add up to what we're losing, and
Right.
that's not ideological. That's just math.
Yep. And it's the same way with the data centers as well. So
Hmm.
one of the problems with the data centers, one of them is that a lot of the jobs aren't Louisiana-based jobs. They're bringing
Hmm.
in a lot of labor. And in
Hmm.
addition to that, the promises of certain salaries, some of our people got up there and it was a switcheroo. And
Hmm.
so some of them decided to come back home. The other is location. Data
Hmm.
centers need water.
Hmm.
Data centers should be near the river, not in the middle of town.
Hmm.
And they should pay their fair share of utilities because all of these utility plants were built on the back of the working class. It's the same way with the taxes for Audubon Zoo, the same way with New Orleans and Company and others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, New Orleans Company has 300 million in cash surplus,
Yeah.
but won't help with our streets that are worn out because we have so many visitors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the type of things that we have to stop. And that's why I keep saying it has to be practical business leadership. We owe no one anything except our citizens. And so if it's not a good deal for the citizens, it's not a good deal.
Okay. I don't because I don't want to keep you terribly long. I have a couple more questions for you, and then we can close out. So
No problem.
I wanted to get to your third pillar, which was education. Um, what especially because of where you are now, we're down in New Orleans, where I think the conversation about the role of charter schools, um, the value of traditional community-based public schools has been uh, kind of it. I think the role and existence of the community-based public school has kind of really been fought, and some would say sort of tragically in New Orleans. So you kind of firsthand can see what a lot of the rest of the state is starting to experience, which is this sort of undermining of public education through a variety of different means. You mentioned vouchers, which is kind of the most direct one where you're taking public money and you're giving it to private schools. You're giving kids the ability just to take that money and go to a private school. But you're also seeing charter networks sort of operating as quasi publicly funded private schools with selective enrollment. You're seeing these efforts to backdoor the role that public school was there for. Here in, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but here in Baton Rouge, we had pretty much a blatant segregationist effort where
Yes.
an entire city was created because the state law says that you can't create a school district unless you create a city. And so a city, St. George, was created so that they could create a school district that was majority white. And they
Right.
took that out of Baton Rouge proper. Efforts like that, where it's very clear that at the very least, there's a movement to resegregate our schools, but at the most, that it seems clear that they really do want to undermine the entire purpose and existence of public schools.
Right. And it's not just public schools that want to undermine the existence of citizenship here in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a certain type of way about those that want to succeed from the city in which they have benefited from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those same cities should cut off the sewer. You know, they should tap them. If they want to go out and have their own city, well, you need to have your own infrastructure, your own water, your own sewage, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing should be coming from the city that you decided to succeed from. One of the things that I see even here in New Orleans is that these charter school networks aren't even based here in the state.
No, no.
So they're taking these dollars and they're going elsewhere. So working as a management consultant, which I have done for the majority um, of my corporate life, we go into cities. We offer them management consulting, and on Thursday evening or Friday, we're back to our city with
Mm-hmm.
all of our dollars,
Yeah.
which means that wherever that funding came from, whether it came from Washington, D.C. or come from Baton Rouge, those dollars are gone. They don't benefit the citizens. So these charter school networks, in addition to that, they don't have the performance.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not getting a better education. They're still low on the totem pole when it comes to standardized tests.
Yeah.
They're still low on the totem pole when it comes to knowledge and understanding as well. So it doesn't make sense in order to do it that way. I think what we need to have is skills and knowledge based education. I don't think there should be just one particular way. When we had magnet schools and schools that were centered around skills, that is something that should return because you lose all of that in this charter school network. We had schools that had auto mechanics where you could learn to work on a car. So then you could, getting a Toyota and other places um, is a lot easier. The same way with woodworking and carpentry, HVAC, all of these things are in schools in other states.
Mm-hmm.
We've given it away by saying, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to farm it out. It's time to go back to our teachers taught for a lifetime in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they enjoy doing. Now teachers, they just skip around.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we give incentives to take care of teachers. Teachers should be one of the highest paid professions in America because it's only because of teachers that we have doctors, lawyers, and all these others. In addition to that, we have to make sure that education is funded as a priority. But again, practical education. Our standards should not be as such. Number one, they should be challenged, but they should not be as such that they cripple someone that has great electrical or other skills because they can't excel at something that is so unrelated. And I'm not saying lower the bar. I'm saying have different paths in education. That is what is practical. Because you would not have me taking swimming tests because, I want to be, the greatest lifeguard and rescue person if what I really want to do is build cars or build trucks. And I think those paths is what is important. Bringing education back to the public is also important. Each one of these charter schools have their own set of rules. And because of that, your kids can be thrown out of different schools for whatever set of rules that they have set up because they're not standard across the board. New Orleans has only one public school. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
The largest city in the state
Yeah.
of Louisiana has
Yeah.
one public school.
Yeah.
So we're talking about all these dollars going out to these private entities, whether they have a nonprofit status or not, is a private entity because they're nonprofit doesn't mean that you can't make a profit. It's just how you spread it out.
Yeah.
Because they can still have a high six-figure salary.
Do you think college is for everybody?
College is not for everyone. I think it's a great goal, but it's absolutely not for everyone. And I don't think that it will serve everyone well. I think college is one of the grifts in America.
Hmm.
They want you to go to college, but it's to whose benefit? It's the same way right now that we have our senators involved in the name and likeness situation,
Mm-hmm.
where they're concerned about the athlete's education. Oh, so now all of a sudden you're concerned about the athlete's education when you never been, only because they're making money now. Now you're concerned about their education. So when you had all these low to no graduation rates beforehand, it wasn't a problem.
Exactly.
Now that they can make a living without it, you're concerned because they don't have to stay. Because once they make a name for themselves, they're making dollars for themselves.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone. It has to be practical. In other words, if I go to college, what is going to be my benefit in the end? It can't just be having a degree.
Yeah.
It has to be something that I can put my finger on that benefits my family. And if it doesn't benefit my family, it's not good for me.
Okay, so I got two more questions. I always like to ask people this, and it's sort of an extension of my question about your politics. In 2026, what is the difference between a Democrat and a Republican?
Hmm, man, that's a great question. Well, let me break it down to you real frank. Um, we have a lot of party jumpers. Number one, we have a constituent that is within the party that will jump ship and vote on the other side for whatever reason that they do.
Mhm.
The major difference between a Democrat and a Republican is the Republicans are a lot more loyal.
Hmm.
They could be dead wrong, but they're going to stand behind that wrong
No.
all the way to the end.
No.
The reason why Project 2025 went so well is the same reason why, in my speech coming up, I'm going to mention exactly what we should do. The first thing you have to do, you have to plan, strategize, memorialize it, meaning
Mhm.
write it down, make standard operating procedures out of it. So when the opportunity comes that you can implement it with strength and swiftly.
No.
Planning for the long range and playing the very long game is the major difference between Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
If you're playing the long game, you stick with who you're with because you know down the road, we have this plan that we're going to be able to implement. And if we just stick to it, it can work.
What's one thing Louisiana Democrats should know about your campaign that they probably don't know yet?
Uh, Two things. One, that I'm for the people, and two, they're going to see me or have an opportunity to see me and speak to me. I'm just like they are. Uh, that's why I'm proud of Tallulah. I love Tallulah. Uh, it was a shining star even in poverty when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and it still shines bright in my heart. And if I didn't care about those places, I wouldn't be running. I'm running not because of the money. Um, Number one, the senator's salary is only 175,000 a year, and you can only make another 15% above that. So that is a salary cut for me from the beginning. But we're not going to have the Louisiana that we love if we don't have a change. Someone has to save Louisiana. And the leadership we have right now is taking it farther into the ground.
All right. Gary Crockett, Democrat running for the United States Senate here in Louisiana. I appreciate you joining me tonight and good luck on your journey.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.